Welcome to the Borderless Podcast, your guide to traveling, investing, and living beyond borders, where we talk about living the life that you want to live, where you want to live it. From beautiful San Miguel de Allende, smack in the middle.
Beautiful San Miguel de Allende, Mexico. It is the only podcast fueled by mezcal. Specifically, Guiño Guiño Artesanal Mezcal, crafted by indigenous Zapotec maestros in the countryside of Oaxaca. Did that sound like a commercial? Well, soon it will be. In fact, I'm Jonathan Lockwood. I'm here with James Guzman. How you doing, James?
I'm doing very well.
Okay, I wanted to do this real quick. So, I got all this mezcal here. I just want to do a quick taste test with you. Okay. I'm going to give you two types of espadín. This is the kind of mezcal that I can give people for the lowest price point.
Oh, this is the one that I usually get.
Well, this is one type of espadín, and then I've got another here, and I want you to try that. Just go ahead and enjoy it here. So that's one.
There you go. Yeah, I know this one well, actually. Just yesterday.
You ready for this one?
Yep.
Okay. Okay, now try that one. We're trying espadín. This is the most common maguey plant, maguey being a type of agave, and it's farmed, so it's very plentiful. It's the wild stuff that is a bit more expensive, but this is really good, made by, not any big companies, but little maestros out in the campo. What do you think?
Great. Yeah, absolutely. I like this better than the other stuff, yeah.
Well, now this is the one actually that you just got for me the other day.
Oh, okay.
This is the San Andreas Niños.
Yeah.
And the first one was the Miahuatlan. And I think you're right. This is the one I got like 100 bottles of this. Guys, come to San Miguel and buy some mezcal from me. It's taking up most of my second bedroom. Anyway.
And you know what I like about it is you can sip on it. And even compared to the other mezcal, I was at my house yesterday with my mom, and she likes mezcal. And we were trying it, but this is, it's like twice as potent, or tastes like at least, than regular mezcal.
It does taste like it, and it is a little more potent alcoholically. It is fair, most of it sort of is, but the problem is, like our friend Fred, he'll get some of these really smooth mezcals, and they are nice, but when you taste something like this, you can't take the same sort of shot into your throat, because it'll burn the hell out of it, and you won't taste it.
Yeah.
Just tiny little sips. A full, shot glass, I can nurse for 45 minutes and sometimes longer.
Yeah.
Just tiny little sips of it, and you really get the flavors. This one to me has like a cinnamony taste or something.
Yeah.
Anyway, back to it. I don't mean to spend that much time on it. But so our guest today on the Borderless Podcast is Harald Baldr. Okay, so that's HaraldBaldr. He blogs at haraldbaldr.com. He used to write about freedom, politics, and economics, but now focuses instead on travel, investing, and women. In 2000, at age 18, he left Northern Europe. Since then, he's built and sold a successful business, lectured full-time at universities, and picked up 2 new languages. He's lived in Thailand, Colombia, Brazil, Ukraine, Japan, Australia, USA, Indonesia, Philippines, Cambodia, and he says, regretfully, Norway. But in all, he has lived in 60 countries. You'll find loads of interesting articles on Harald's blog. I want you to see how diverse they are, okay? Here are some titles. Proven 2-year strategy for starting an internet business. How stock markets are rigged and how to profit from them. How I pay 0 taxes and how anyone can do the same. But also articles such as The Muff Diet, Indonesia's finest cuisine. How I lost 4 kilograms in 1 week muff diving. Also, How to bang Thai go-go girls for free. And Top 10 easiest countries to bang hot girls. So clearly he is anything but one-dimensional. He sums up his website as your guide to making money and living abroad. Welcome, Harald Baldr, to the Borderless Podcast.
Hello, thank you. That was a great intro.
Thank you. Well, Harald, James sent your blog site to me the other day. I'm sure I've probably come across it here and there, but I was amazed because I've seen other sites that kind of touch on it. But for instance, when they get off into stuff about women, it ends up being like sort of enormously crude, like unnecessarily coarse and stuff like that. And yours, when I read that top 10 cities and the system by which you used to arrive at them, I was amazed. It was incredibly complex and detailed. And what I want to ask you, first of all, is, so you said you were 18 in 2000, so you must be about 33 right now, right?
Yeah, I'm turning 34 next month.
Okay. And you were originally from Norway?
Yes, I was born and raised in Oslo.
Okay, cool. Now, what was it that led to your decision to move outside of Denmark? Where did you go first, and what was that path like?
Outside of Norway. Yeah. Denmark is south of Norway. Okay. Initially, I wanted to try something new, and I figured I gotta just go somewhere else to see what if my life will change. So I basically just got on a plane and went to Australia, and I entered a university there, and I've been living abroad ever since. I guess what kind of sparked my interest was that I'm not a huge fan of how things are run where I grew up, and that is Norway. So,
we get told that Norway is just a bastion of great policy and all this type of stuff. I mean, that's not how you felt?
No, and it is not how I currently feel either. It is good if you are on welfare, and if you don't aspire to much in life, then it's fantastic because everything is given to you. But if you do have ambition, you want to create something, you want to save up a lot of money in a short amount of time to kind of become financially free, the system is rigged against you. They don't want that at all. Was there any specific things, maybe regulations or tax or something that kept you back from doing something while you were there? That specifically, or was it just a thing in general? No, I was too young at the time. I'm a fan of freedom. Mm-hmm. I'm a classical liberal, I am a classical liberal. I try to embody that lifestyle as well. I kind of practice what I preach. So to kind of live as a classical liberal in Norway, that's impossible. It's the most heavily regulated country on earth. Mm-hmm. Right. So now you're in. Tell us, at what point did Norway take that turn? Has it been 50 years, longer, shorter? Really, it took off after World War II, but we've kind of always been. Every now and then I come across some information that kind of leads to points out that we've been a nanny state since from the beginning, basically. Are people, generally speaking, in Norway very hip to the idea of the more socialist state that exists there? Oh, yeah. I mean, the views that I espouse are not at all mainstream in Norway. Most people would defend the government, and I have to say, most people are probably quite happy in Norway. Mm-hmm. I mean, ignorance is bliss. Right. But what they are not aware of is what? What's really going on? Well, yes, they are, but you've brought up, you're more or less indoctrinated into a certain way of thinking through the public school system. So kind of the great boogeyman in Norway, in Norwegian schools and in Norwegian politics is what we call American conditions. Without the government, we have American conditions. You're brought up to believe, and American, yeah, it's a famous term. Everyone knows what American conditions means, and if you generally throw that term out there, it's guns everywhere. You'll starve to death because the government won't help you. Things like that. That's American conditions. Ah, very interesting. Capitalism run amok. More or less. So you need the state there to kind of regulate and take care of you, which it does. I mean, it does that more than it should. That's my problem. Mm. But the problem is, I think what you're trying to say is, well, there's little incentive to expand your life in any way, right? Well, the incentive is there. It's just that things would be a lot easier for people with the ambition and drive to create something of themselves without government putting all these obstacles in the way, such as licensing fees, high taxation, etc., etc. If things were a bit freer, it would be very easy for people who didn't come from much wealth to more or less set themselves up for a lifetime of traveling after just working hard for 10 years. Whereas now, working hard for 10 years, you see more or less 70 to 80% of your income confiscated in various taxes. And so you have to work 20 to 30 years to accomplish the goal that should be possible in 10.
Right. You know, we've always heard that in Scandinavia, it's a fairly safe place. I've heard the term social trust used about that area. Is that still the case? Is there a high level of social trust in Norway, or is that beginning to disintegrate?
No, I would say that's a fairly accurate description. Norway is a pretty peaceful country. It's safe. It's not a bad place to live. It's just that it doesn't really. I can't reconcile that with what I want in my life and how I want to live. So the obvious choice was to move.
Yeah, well, that's a good way of looking at it. You know, I read that post that you had about it was Norwegian girls, right? That was pretty funny too. So it was pretty obvious, you know, the whole way of life and just kind of the culture wasn't for you. So, you know, say okay, that's fine, but I think I'll find some other place to live, some other way to live. So
yeah, let's just touch on that. 6 reasons never to date Norwegian girls. 1, obesity, they're in denial. 2, feminism, they're infected. 3,
yes.
Politics, they worship false idols. 4, intelligence, they don't have it. 5, appearances, say what? It says they lack class. 6, men, it's a crime being one. Why don't you talk about that one? Why is it a crime to be a man in Norway?
Well, that whole article, I mean, it's sure I stand by everything in it, but I've kind of amplified it, and I tried to focus on the things that I find the most negative about women in Norway. I mean, there's several positive things about them too, but I mean, in order for an article to be effective, you need to go in one direction. You don't want to be politically correct.
Sure.
So I tried to create a kind of maximum offense in that article, and it had 30,000 views in 2 days.
30,000 views in 2 days?
Wow.
Yeah, so it's my most read article ever.
Oh, wow.
So it works. You have to be. If I wrote a nice article about them, it would have had a couple of hundred views.
Right.
So. No, but the point being, I'm currently in Eastern Europe, and when I wrote that article, I kind of contrasted Norwegian women with what I see here in Eastern Europe, where women are feminine, skinny, encourage you to be manly, and they all hate government, all of them. So this is kind of the place for me in terms of finding a woman with the values that I would like a woman to have.
Well, congratulations on finding it. That's great.
But as you touched upon in the intro, I very often I get email or comments, people saying that I'm misogynistic or sexist. I mean, it's not sexist, for example, to take a photo of a woman who's walking down the streets, you know, dressed up in a skirt and high heels. That's the way women dress here. Mm-hmm. They want to be looked at. A woman who walks out like that doesn't do that, so you're not going to look at her, you know.
Right.
So I just want to put that in there. There's nothing. I find it very strange that some people call my blog sexist and offensive to women. That is not what I'm trying to do.
Sure, you know, because the people there is an extreme level of feminism that does exist out there and has existed for a long time. But it seems like people are sort of apprehending it a little bit better today than they used to, and as a result, there are a number of voices speaking out against them. Many of them are female voices. Some of them are like you, and I think me, you know, we would like to shine some light of scrutiny on some of the bullshit about it. But then, of course, you've got some groups that are definitely misogynistic, you know, who are definitely saying very degrading things intentionally about women. And that's not my intention either, and I'm sure it's not yours.
No, it's not at all. What I'd like to do with that article, and I try to. I mean, my interest is politics and economics. It's more a political article than anything else, because if I've wrote an article explaining that women, no, they don't earn less than men. That's one of the most enduring myths in economics and politics. And I managed to throw that in there. That no, they don't. And in the comment section, someone pointed that out, and I shot him down simply by saying, listen, if women really earned less than men, why would any business ever hire a male?
The fear that exists from going up against some of these identity groups, you know, is enough for it to be at a religious level. And as a result, you know, you can counteract certain things that people say, but not if they have to do with one of these religiously fueled identity groups, and that's just one of them.
Feminism is definitely a religion, and in Scandinavia more so than anywhere else, in particularly in Sweden. That article and anything that I said about Norway goes for Sweden as well, and in Sweden it's 10 times worse. Scandinavia is not the place in terms of politics. Yeah.
All right. Well, now that you've traveled to all these places and you've written extensively about it, what are some of the best places that you found, other than where you are now? You said that you really enjoy, but can you list maybe the top 5?
Well, I've spent most of this year in Ukraine. I do enjoy it here. It's incredibly cheap. It's incredibly safe. It is modern, and it's kind of a politically incorrect place. If I'm going to contrast it with Scandinavia. Anything that a Scandinavian will tell you, a Ukrainian will more or less be on the complete opposite side of the political scale. Other than Ukraine, I would say Colombia was a great country. I lived in Thailand for many years. Thailand is fantastic. And the Philippines, Indonesia. I mean, more or less every country you visit or live in, if you spend a prolonged period of time there, you will kind of establish a social circle and start to enjoy life there. I'm sure you could enjoy life pretty much in every country in the world. It depends on your attitude and what kind of person you are.
You know,
if I'm going to make a top 5, I mean, I right now I prefer Ukraine, but possibly in a few months I will move to Brazil or Colombia again. I enjoyed life there, and then at some stage, as I get older, I assume I'll end up in Asia again.
You're in Kyiv right now, right?
I'm in Kyiv, yeah.
Okay, and are you speaking Russian there, Harald?
They speak Russian here and Ukrainian. I don't speak neither.
Oh,
I speak English.
Okay, and you get by just fine?
Yes, there's no problem. Most of the world, I mean, even in Japan, you can get by speaking English. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You know, I was just looking at your article on your blog, What Does 1 Week in Ukraine Cost? And you start out saying it's possible to live comfortable anywhere in Europe for $2,000 US per month. Even $1,500 is doable. But then you run down everything you did for your first week in Kiev. And at the end of it all, you've got everything figured in there. You've got all in expenses per week, including one night out partying, plus the round-trip airfare for $300, comes out to roughly $764 US. That's
okay.
Crazy. So $434, aside from your airfare to live there. Are you standing by that? Is that still about right, you think?
It's probably overshooting it a bit. It's cheaper than that. I waste an exorbitant amount of money on eating 4 or 5 times a day sometimes.
Okay.
Also, sometimes I go out more than once. So yes, but I mean, if that's what you do, what I listed in that article, which was a rundown of my first week here, that's what you'll spend. Probably a little bit less. I live pretty well. I mean, I rent apartments. I don't live in hostels. Uh-huh. And I eat out all the time, and yeah.
And you're paying, well, here you're paying $32 a night. You're paying something like $50 a night now, right?
No, I'm paying $23.
Holy crap! All right, the opposite direction.
Because I wrote about that too. I made a deal with the owner because I was going through Booking.com and then an agency, but then I found out who the real owner was, and I made her an offer, and now I'm just paying her directly.
Yeah, I did the same thing. You could do that with Airbnb and Booking.com. A lot of these different ones. That's a good way to do that.
Booking.com owners are easier to bargain with for some reason.
Yeah, you've got a special page on your website about how to save 50% on Booking.com, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And yes.
Well, that's just one positive somebody can glean from going to HaraldBaldr.com. And by the way, that's HaraldBaldr.com.
So what are maybe some other kind of hacks for, negotiating rooms accommodation that you use?
Well, the number one thing, especially in Eastern Europe, is you have to look good. And I'm not saying you have to be a handsome man. I say you have to dress the part. Okay, so wearing wearing, you don't have to wear a suit and a tie, but nice shoes and look like a stand-up individual. Because the number one risk to an apartment owner is you trashing the place. And the more you come across as someone who's not going to do that, the more willing they are to keep you as a long-term tenant for a discount.
Okay, very good. And so anyway, you gave us some of your top ones. Well, you said definitely Ukraine is your favorite. You also enjoyed Colombia and Brazil, right? Were those the other two you mentioned?
In terms of living abroad?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, by far the easiest, the most fun, the country I've spent the most amount of time in is Thailand. It's the easiest country for a Westerner to kind of blend in. There's going to be tons of other Westerners there. Thais are very welcoming and open and friendly towards foreigners. Cost of living is dirt cheap. Thailand is probably the number one, I would say. But I do not live there anymore. Simply because I think Thailand was about to get the better of me, so I wanted to get on the road again and see more of the world. When I lived in Thailand, I used to spend about 7 months out of the year there, and then 5 months in other countries. But now I'm spending the whole year away from Thailand, and I'm going to keep it like that for the foreseeable future.
How would you describe your experience in Colombia?
Excellent. Colombia was fantastic. A little bit difficult because I don't speak Spanish. I do try to study now. I'm okay in terms of chatting Spanish, but I can't speak much. Right. So it was difficult without knowing Spanish. But I went to Cali, I went to Cartagena, Bogota, and Medellin. Mm-hmm. And out of those four, I think Medellin was by far, is probably the top three most beautiful city I have visited and most livable city anywhere in the world. Medellin is definitely up there with Bangkok, and then probably Kiev is my top three.
That's what we keep hearing about Medellin.
I'm going to run something by you guys. I think it might be interesting. So I'm thinking about going to Medellin the beginning of January for a month. All right. Now, I have an ex-girlfriend who kind of called me out of the blue, and she says, I'm going to be there for the first 2 weeks to visit my family. And she says, well, you come down, you'll show me around. Or I'll show you around, I'm sorry. So I said, okay, well, I started looking at rooms and all this. I found some pretty good deals. And then as we're texting, she says, when I'm in Colombia with my family, they treat me like a queen, so, you should treat me the same way. And when we go out to eat, you can eat really cheap, but when you're with me, I like to go to the nicest places.
What?
That's what she said.
This is a chick that you had something to do with?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I went out with her probably, 7, 8 years or something like that.
Holy crap.
But,
not exclusively, obviously.
No, but, okay. And she was great and everything was fine. But what do you think? What would you do? Just not even meet up with her?
Cut her off. Cut her loose.
What do you think, Jonathan?
Not
even worth meeting up with?
I would say that what she threw out to you is what we would call in sales a trial close.
Okay.
She's wanting to see your reaction. So you can either, it's like Warren Buffett always says, you can always tell someone to fuck off tomorrow.
Right.
Or next week or something like that. So you just say, just chuckle, let her know how you feel about that, laugh at her. Oh, queen, huh? Shall I get you a crown? Can I get you a scepter? Would you, and sort of tease a little bit like that.
Right.
See what her reaction is, and then just say, look, I'd have a great time with you, but, I'm not going to treat you like a queen, okay? All
right. Well, we'll see. I don't know. I haven't made a decision what I'm going to do yet, but I just thought this.
That may work. It's probably the diplomatic thing to do. If yes.
Anyways, that's fine.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, okay. So we're talking about all sorts of stuff. I didn't, I called Harald yesterday on Skype just to see how it would go. Every now and then, Harald, we get somebody, and it ends up being an absolutely horrible interview. So, I right away, I could tell that you're easy to talk to. So I didn't even prepare any questions here. I really wanted to talk to you quite a bit about investing because you have a lot to say about this. At what point did you decide that you were an investor? When did you begin your investing life?
Probably after reading Jim Rogers. It was, can't remember which Jim Rogers book was the first I read, but the last one I read from him was probably Street Smarts, which is a pretty good book. And I mean, there's not if you're familiar with Jim Rogers, most of his books are kind of the same. So if you've read one and then you read another title, he's basically reinforcing the points that he made in the first one. Mm-hmm. And he always talks about investing as opposed to trading. So that's I kind of have my investment philosophy from Jim Rogers. Also, in general, in life, I tend to be contrarian in nature. Everyone worships government. I decided to look. Well, hold on. Why? Maybe there's something to not doing that. I try to do the same in terms of investing. So when everyone goes in one direction, I try to look and investigate and see what's in the other direction. Mm-hmm. I guess that's just, I'm a kind of a contrarian by nature. So when I started investing, that was kind of the natural way to go for me.
Mm-hmm. You've got a few principles here that you have on your website under the topic of investing. And you make the point first that to be able to see how easy it is to make money by investing, you need to understand why so many other people believe it's so hard. What do you mean by that?
Well, the point there is that when everyone believes that one thing is true, and everyone believes that it's impossible, you got to be a professional. You have to align yourself with a big brokerage firm, or you got to go with an investment advisor. When everyone believes that is true, generally what everyone believes is true tend to be false. And over the years, I've experienced that no, you can do this on your own. You don't need to pay exorbitant fees to a brokerage firm or a financial advisor who's basically just going to sit there and follow the steps outlined by his textbook anyway. And they've had all these kinds of research studies published that 25 random monkeys can get better returns than 25 average Wall Street analysts. And that's true. This was a Wall Street Journal article not too long ago. So
the second point.
That's what I mean.
Okay, understood. The second point you have under investing is that a minority of people invest in stocks. You make the point that millennials don't invest at all. And this is a point that I'd have to say a lot of people who share our general philosophy have, is stay out of the market. And you make the point, and you have it in bold here, the stock market is nothing to fear. You explain, though, that doesn't mean that it comes fast or easy. So what's your point there?
My point is that what you should fear is having your savings evaporate into thin air through inflation or through a bank failure. Or, I mean, your money, the unsafest place for your money is in a savings account. Mm-hmm. It's the surest way to lose. The surest way to win is to buy profitable companies that have a proven track record of increasing revenues and that pay a dividend, or have a buyback program. That's the easiest way to grow your savings. And the reason why that is the easiest place to grow your savings is the system is rigged. All the insiders, the people that fund the politicians, that get their people in office, these big companies, they ensure that the system perpetuates itself. So the safest place for your savings is with those insiders, like, for example, Berkshire Hathaway, BRKB. It's probably the safest stock out there. Buffett is he's a great public relations officer, because he says one thing and then he does another, which ensures that he's kind of got one foot in the door with whoever's in charge at the moment. Yeah, and that's going to benefit his company. It's going to benefit you as a shareholder of Berkshire Hathaway.
Yeah, Harald, don't you think that a lot of these, so like you're saying that, you're a contrarian, and I like to think as a contrarian as well. It doesn't mean that the majority is always wrong, but many times it is. And, when everybody is thinking one way, it might be time to step back and think, at least, examine the other point of view. So, people like Warren Buffett, who are, cheerleaders for the dollar and all this stuff. I've known a lot of these Wall Street guys, and I don't think that they know a lot about real economics, and I think that they're in for a rude awakening. Maybe they've been doing well within the baby boomer generation, but as far as, with our generation, me and you are similar ages. I'm very, I don't know. I think that you have to look again. I think that we might be seeing some major changes in the markets as far as maybe away from the dollar. Who knows when that'll be, but, different types of makeups of the market. So I think that, I don't know. I'm very weary of these Berkshire Hathaway and these other type of, New York and the dollar cheerleader companies, that they're going to be the place to be for our lifetimes.
There could be something to that. I mean, I'm not smart enough to know which stock is going to go up or which stock is going to go down. But if you look at history, the index over time, I don't think there has been any 20-year period in the past 100 years where the returns on the S&P 500 have been negative. So if you're kind of in it for the long haul, my view is that you will make money, and more so than having money in a bank account. Now, as to the direction of the dollar and interest rates, I mean, there's no telling. Suddenly, some black swan comes in, and then all the prognosticators they have to change their forecast. So I try to not I don't even check my net worth every month even. I can't even remember the last time I did it. I don't even trade that much. The only stocks I've bought this year has been BP, Seadrill, and Berkshire Hathaway, and that's it. So yeah.
It sounds like you do more kind of long-term swing trading. Is that right? I mean, you don't do short-term trades or anything like that. You buy certain companies that you think have good fundamentals and just a few of them, and then you hold on to them.
Yes,
right? Yeah.
I mean, sometimes I go out. If it starts to rise quickly after I bought it, then I will jump out, even if it's a day or a week or then I trade. But in general, when I buy something, it's to buy and hold. I'm not smart enough to know when a stock is going to go up or down. I just know that if something's been going down for a long time, and investor sentiment is very, very negative on that company, but the fundamentals are still good, then it's probably a good buy. Yeah.
Well, I don't think I know nobody's smart enough to know which way the market's going. There's just so many variables. And so, normally what I try to get people to do is, or try to advise people if they ask me, is, have kind of a diversified thing in stocks are okay. Real estate is another good investment. And then I don't think that holding cash, even in a savings account, I think it's even better outside of a savings account if you're not getting any interest. But, cash isn't a bad thing to have on hand. You can take advantage of, different types of opportunities that might come up to you. You never know when you have a business or something, for instance, like Jonathan's Mezcal thing or whatever, like something that you might be able to flip and make money. And also, you never know. We don't know when when the dollar, when this dollar rally how it's going to happen. If it's going to crash or if it's going to get stronger for how much longer.
Before we go any further, I want to talk to Harald about that, because we touched on that yesterday, and I appreciate his perspective so much. Mm-hmm. But we need to take just a moment and give some attention to our sponsor. Today's Borderless podcast is brought to you by the Condescending Group, where their undying theme is, if we can save just one. For example, if we can save just one woman from being abused, it's worth it to imprison 10,000 men on the most trivial of suspicions. Another, if we can save just one person from being shot by a sick-headed maniac, it's worth it to create gun-free zones where said maniacs will surely lay down their weapons and comply. Also, if we can save just one child from being bullied, it's worth it to interrogate, investigate, and threaten every single parent. And finally, if we can save just one white heterosexual male from his life being ruined, then it's worth it to... Wait a minute. Who snuck that in here? White heterosexual males? Fuck them. Anyway, find out all the many ways we can overreact and ruin people's lives in the cause of caring for those who fit our ideologically approved identity groups by going to thecondescendinggroup.com. The Condescending Group, they care more than you. Okay, we're back with our guest today, Harald Baldr from haraldbaldr.com. His website is about your guide to making money and living abroad. and he shared with us his perspective about investing. And you know what it's reminding me a lot of, Harold? I've been paying closer and closer attention, James knows this, to Simon Black. He calls himself the Sovereign Man. Are you familiar with him?
Yes, I've seen his website, yes.
Yes, I like the guy. I've been reading him for years, but lately I've been paying closer and closer attention. He says pretty much the same thing that you do about, finding companies, successful companies that make sense, investing in them. But he also talks about deep value stocks, and BP is just one of them, as you mentioned. But one of the positions that Simon Black takes that is a constant theme running through his site is his concern about the fall of the U.S. dollar as the world reserve currency. Now, again, you're not coming across in a blustery way and claiming that you know better than anybody else, but your general perspective yesterday is that you don't see that happening anytime soon. Is that right?
No, I don't see that happening, simply because America is not the only country with a debt to GDP ratio in the vicinity or above 100%. Okay, Japan's debt to GDP ratio, the government's debt, is at 200%. Greece 170%. Italy 110%. I mean, there's very few governments around the world that kind of have their fiscal house in order. All central banks are doing the same. They have interest rates running around zero, some even in negative territory. So I mean, this America isn't some outlier here doing kind of everything wrong. I mean, whatever America is doing wrong, if they are doing everything wrong, so is everyone else. The fact of the matter too is that the American worker is still highly productive. People in America work, they educate themselves. Americans are smart. They're generally law-abiding. I mean, America has a lot of things going for it as well. So, I mean, it's not just going to collapse overnight. As to when the dollar will tank again, I do not know. But in general, I mean, the American dollar is safer than the Indonesian rupiah. Just to make one currency comparison. So I mean, it's not the worst currency in the world. It's probably not the best either. I don't have my savings in the dollar anymore now after the rally. But then, yeah.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that perspective. It's always good to challenge yourself. I pay closer attention to sort of Austrian economists, but I sent an article to James last night from Harry Dent, who always sort of challenges my thinking on some of these things. I suppose the point that Simon Black would make about the potential fall of the U.S. dollar as the world reserve currency is not just because the United States is in debt up to their eyeballs. Surely he makes the point that it's insolvent and it's in a very scary place. But in addition to that, he would say that the United States in so many ways bullies other governments, other countries, other banking systems, to the degree that, there's going to come a time when they're not going to take it anymore, so especially at a time when the U.S. is not, in such a great position. His other points would be simply, he doesn't know when. Certainly he was thinking things were moving in the direction of China until, of course, China had that terrible economy crash here this year. And he said, say hello to at least 5 more years of the dollar. That was his perspective. But I guess what I'm saying here is that not every empire lasts forever. While it doesn't happen overnight, it does happen at some point. Not every world reserve currency, every world reserve currency has always, crashed and it's led to something else. But it is interesting to hear how somebody on the other side of the world who has no sort of allegiance whatsoever to the United States is making the claim that he just doesn't see that it's likely anytime soon.
No, I mean, I also recognize the possibility it could happen tomorrow.
Right.
Nobody can know these things. I mean, if I do sound just to answer something you touched upon, if I sound a little bit like that sovereign man, they had a list of books, recommended books, not too long ago, and coincidentally, I think 6 or 7 of the 10 books that he recommended were all books that I used to use in class when I was teaching, because I used to teach mainly Austrian economics when I was teaching economics. So I do kind of share his views on most things, yes.
Where did you teach economics?
At the Webster University in Thailand.
Oh, wow, that's cool.
And Khon Kaen University before then.
Very good. So, I mean, let's talk a little bit more about how you've been able to make a living while you've been going all around the world like this? Obviously, you do some type of trading and stuff like that, but what are some other ways that you've used to occupy yourself and make money on the road?
Well, I mean, what I initially did was for the first 4.5 years, I borrowed in the vicinity of $100,000 and basically my student loans that I was living on in Australia and that I lived very frugally in Australia, and I used to take a couple of round-the-world trips every year. And that's when I realized that I wanted to keep traveling and see other countries. But that wasn't sustainable. So when I finished my degree in Australia, I didn't move back to Norway. I moved in with a friend of mine who ran a web development company. Basically, he was building websites, hosting sites. This is before WordPress. So it was not as easy to run a website back then. So he told me he could give me a job. I put my computer next to his, and I sat there for 2-3 months, 16, 17 hours a day, looking at how to design websites, dealing with clients who wanted websites built. And then I outsourced all this work to Filipinos and Indonesians who were working for basically a couple of dollars an hour. And that proved extremely lucrative.
Was it more lucrative than your life as a male gigolo?
Yes.
Okay. I'm just teasing. Please go on. Let's hear more about it.
Yes. So that's how I got my initial capital to start investing. I never really made much money when I was lecturing at university. That was basically just to have something to do on the side. And also I thought I could make a difference. I believe in free markets. I believe in freedom, believe in capitalism. I felt that I had something to give on those subjects. So I taught at university for almost 4 years, 2 universities. And I guess I kind of got burnt out because I realized that the people that I kind of thought were mankind's last hope for freedom in my lifetime, which up until very recently I thought that was America. But seeing as most of my students were Americans and they were the most anti-capitalist, the most pro-socialist, I kind of lost faith in where we're going. So I decided to quit back in December of last year and just hit the road again and just kind of get rich and continue doing what I do, which is travel, meet women, and have fun. So. And
how are you able to teach? I mean, you don't have a PhD, right?
I have 2 bachelor's degrees and 1 master's.
Oh, okay, and that was good enough for them. You just was it hard for you to get that position teaching economics?
Yes, I'm writing a book about that now, actually. 4 years of teaching in Thailand, where I will outline everything and how that happened. Initially, I was hired as a political science lecturer at both universities, but they had economics courses that nobody could teach, and then I took them.
Okay, yeah, we've had another guy on the podcast, Hervoye, who teaches political studies in Guadalajara here. So that that is another option for people. Is to if you have a bachelor's. He only has a bachelor's and he's able to do it. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I don't even think you need a bachelor's in Thailand. Every now and then I came across fake lecturers, basically people that work as lecturers who didn't even have a bachelor's degree, but they had purchased a diploma in Khao San Road in Bangkok, and they were able to become lecturers due to that fake degree.
Mm. Harald, you made a point earlier that probably the worst place in the world for your money is in a bank. But no doubt you've got some sort of a place where you've got a holding place for your money when it isn't in an investment, right? What do you recommend?
I recommend going offshore. I used to use banks in Europe previously because Europe have several so-called tax havens. Andorra, Switzerland no more, and Liechtenstein, which is also kind of no more. So I don't recommend them anymore. I recommend Singapore or Hong Kong. It is extremely easy to open an offshore bank account or even a company in both those jurisdictions. I met a German guy here in Kiev in February. And he's now resigned from Germany, working and living offshore, and he couldn't be happier. He's saving a mountain in taxes, and he's putting it all in Berkshire Hathaway. So,
well, now, do you keep your brokerage accounts with those banks, or is there another brokerage account that you use?
I go through my banks, yes, and it's all offshore.
When you say offshore, so what you're saying is you have a bank and a company based in either Hong Kong or Singapore. What is the tax? Go ahead. Go ahead.
I pay no capital gains. Okay, I pay no income taxes. Nothing. I don't even have, since I resigned from Norway, they cannot tax me anymore. So now I don't go through the corporate route anymore. So I do not own any offshore companies. I simply have offshore bank accounts, trading accounts in my name, and there's no hocus pocus to that. Anyone can get one. You don't even have to visit the jurisdiction that it's in. You simply contact the bank, and it's very easy. You don't need advisors or to pay some expensive fees for someone to help you with this.
Okay, now we touched on this yesterday. I'm not sure that level of ease is the case for a U.S. citizen.
It is not, because many banks will not deal with Americans. You're simply too free.
Right.
Save me from my freedom, Harald.
Well, your freedom comes at a price, and you're the freest of the lot, so there you go. Yeah. No bank account for you.
Yeah, right. I mean, it would be great to have one of those. I understand it is possible. You have to position yourself more intelligently, and you do have to go there, from what I understand, for a U.S. citizen. Anyway.
Well, the problem is that those banks, they don't have anything against you, but they're afraid of your government. I think one of the oldest banks in the world recently went under because of a lawsuit from your government. A Swiss bank, I can't remember the name.
My first job out of college was with a bank, and we weren't allowed to even talk to United States citizens. We couldn't send them emails. It was a firing offense to send an American citizen an email. So,
well, there you go.
There you go. Yeah.
Wow. All right. Why don't we get to what we're really all here for, okay? And that is, I want to talk about your system here for banging the best places to bang a woman. Now, why don't you tell me what was the top 10 easiest countries to bang hot girls? Why don't you just share with us, what is your basic approach to that? What elements figure into your determination?
Okay, to be totally honest, up until about a year ago, I have basically been lucking it out in every country I have gone to. Now, keep in mind, I've spent most of my life in so-called easy locations, okay? Now, easy locations depends on your looks. Now, keep in mind, I'm from Norway, so I'm relatively tall. I train, I have blue eyes and blonde hair. Now, there are certain countries that's going to work in your favor, okay? Those countries are located in Southeast Asia and in Latin America. So if you possess those traits as a man, you don't need much of a system, okay? Right. Whereas here in Eastern Europe, most people, they kind of look like me, so I don't have an advantage looks-wise. So it's a little trickier. You just basically, you got to come across as in Eastern Europe, they value an honest man, someone who's not an alcoholic, because they have a history here of high levels of alcoholism. Come across as a professional, well-dressed man who there is something in it for them to know long term, whether that's companionship or marriage or whatever. Just don't. In most of these countries outside of the Western world, there is not no such thing as what I call a one-night stand culture. Okay, a woman in Western Europe, she could spend the night with you and think nothing of it. Okay, in most of the world, that's not how they roll. Women want to know that there's something in it for them long term, that you're not gonna pump and dump, so to speak. So that's basically it. Just come across as a well-dressed stand-up guy who's high energy, try to have a bit of humor, provide some excitement in their life, and then they're gonna open up kind of the world to you as well. They're gonna show you their cities, how they live, their life. It's fantastic to be in a relationship with a woman abroad.
You know, last week we did a lightning round with a real estate expert in Latin America. Let's do a lightning round with you. We're looking for maybe 1-2 sentences on your top 10 places to bang a hot girl, okay? So here's
Okay.
number 10. Imagine the drum roll. Brrr. 10, Indonesia.
Conservative. Women there are very conservative.
Okay. Poland.
Very beautiful and blonde.
Okay. Hungary, Budapest.
More beautiful and more blonde.
Ooh. Tokyo, Japan.
Crazy. Think emu and fishnet stockings. That's how the Japanese dress.
Okay. Number 6, Philippines.
Filipinos are very conservative, but morally they're not.
Okay, thank you. Number 5 is Latvia in Riga. That's where Bobby Casey lives. Latvia.
Latvia, I don't even know how to describe Latvia. It's a country split in the middle. Half are Russians, half are Latvians. Both hate each other. Go for the Latvians.
Okay. Kiev, where you are right now, Ukraine.
Kiev have tall, blonde, classy women. That's how I would describe Kiev.
All right. Colombia.
I don't know how to describe Colombia in 2 sentences.
Okay.
Give me 5, okay?
Okay.
Colombians are strange. You can meet a girl that might as well be American, then you can meet a girl, she might as well be Eastern European. There's no way for me to describe them in a couple of sentences. You have everything in Colombia. Fat, skinny, short, tall. Yes.
Okay. Thailand.
Thailand is just simply one sentence. Disneyland for adults.
All righty. I like it. Brazil, you have down here Fortaleza.
Yes, I think I have. Fortaleza is. I didn't have much success in Rio. Fortaleza was easier for me. I would say the Brazilians are just the wildest women in the world.
All right.
In a good way.
Nice job, Harold. Thank you for that. So you've been living this life for what, something like 15 years, something like that?
Yes.
You've been traveling around. You've taught in university. You have previously, written articles about freedom and politics and economics. Now you're focusing on the travel, and you're focusing on investing and women and stuff like that. And so where to from here? Do you ever imagine yourself settling down and getting married, or no?
I would like to, but I have to be honest. I don't see it happening anytime soon. No. It's not something I aspire to. I wing it. I go wherever the wind takes me. Right now I'm happy doing what I do. But I've been meeting a lot of older guys, especially traveling through Eastern Europe. By older, I mean people in their 40s, and I see that this kind of lifestyle it can be a bit sad, I think, if you continue too long. So now approaching mid-30s, I'm kind of evaluating whether this is something I should continue with, or if I should start a family now that I'm relatively young still. So I do not know. I guess that's kind of why I moved back to Europe. A little bit of soul searching and see if I should become a little bit more serious in life.
It's a topic that comes up all the time. I am where you are. I'm 49. I'm kind of where you are, what you're considering. I can't figure out a way to just go through my life banging women here and there. I mean, it sounds fun. I've done it. I can do it. But I want a relationship. I want to have that person in my life. Not every guy wants that, but at least some of them who for years told me, no, don't want that. No. Well, they were fucking lying. Or else they came to realize that it wasn't really who they were. But I'm sure for a lot of people, that's the life that they want. You've got these guys, they call them MGTOW. Are you familiar with them?
No.
MGTOW, what is it? It's like men
going their own way.
Men going their own way. Now, a lot of times some of the stuff they write does sound, extra scathing and sort of angry at women and all that. And I'm not saying some of them don't have reason for it, but they are definitely people who are like, forget women. You don't need them in your life. They'll go so far as to say women are unable to love you. They don't have what it takes, stuff like that. But, that's just one of the things that this extreme version of feminism, I think, has spawned, is a lot of guys who just don't see the upside to a long-term relationship.
Yeah, I disagree there. I mean, to have someone special in your life to kind of share your moments with, I mean, that's that's something most people would like. And I've been around a lot of so-called players and people who've had many women, but all of them have eventually settled at some stage. Now, if they maintain a monogamous relationship, that's another story. But they've still kind of they've tried to find that one, and most of them have, and they stick with it. So I think that's something. I don't know. You can't plan these things. I mean, I'm actually in a relationship now, and I have been for a couple of months.
Oh.
And yes, she knows about my site, so that's not a secret. That's one of the first things we discussed. She was actually quite intrigued. She wanted to know about, tell me about the Brazilian girls, tell me about the Thai women, and so on. So they, yeah.
Sounds like a great gal.
Yeah, no, she is. So,
is she Ukraine?
Yes. No, she's great. So we'll see how long she bothers to hang around with me.
Right. Okay. So James has a question for you, Harald.
Yeah. So if somebody else is maybe they're planning on doing something similar to what you've done, what is the best piece of advice that you would give them?
Sorry, if they plan on doing something.
Yeah, maybe they haven't left wherever they're from. They haven't started their own business or anything like that. What's the single piece of advice that you would give them?
Stop planning. I mean, planning to move abroad is like some obese person planning to lose weight. It's not going to happen. Okay, you just got to do it. Become a man of action. Okay, and I meet so many people. Even when I travel, I meet people who talk about doing things that they never do. And that's the wrong approach. Just do it, okay? If you think you might want to live abroad, just move abroad then for 3 months first and see what it's like. Just do it.
Right. I love that.
The more you plan, the more you're going to procrastinate. It's not going to lead to anything.
The only thing that I see as an impediment to that for some people are people, who are married with children. I understand that they've got an extra level of planning that they've got to put into it, but there are a lot of people listening to this podcast who don't have that. And if you don't, count yourself fortunate not to have that as a difficulty and do exactly what Harald Baldr says. Do it. Quit planning.
Well, there's no excuse. I mean, even with a family, I have a friend now. He's married in Norway. He has 3 kids. He's thinking about moving to Colombia and buying a coffee plantation. I mean, the thing about life is you don't really regret the things that you do, but you regret the things that you never even try. So an adventure like that, it's maybe you fail, maybe you move home. I mean, moving abroad is not going to solve all your problems. It's just going to present a new set of problems, but you might like those problems better than your old ones.
All right. Well, thank you very much for that sage advice, Harald Baldr of HaraldBaldr.com. His website is about representing your guide to making money and living abroad. Thank you so much, Harald Baldr, for being our guest today on the Borderless Podcast.
It was great. Thank you for your time.
So he's kind of what it's all about.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
He's found what makes him happy in the way that, he likes to live there, and he seems to be doing a great job of it. So it was, good to talk to him.
Yeah. And he was a great interview too. We were never sure. Like I said, occasionally we get somebody on whose English is pretty poor and it can be a tough interview. His English is frickin' great.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I wanted to mention this, by the way. Our friend Jim sent this out. It looks like St. Lucia is joining the group of people who are offering a citizenship by investment program.
Yeah, that's
now.
right. Yeah.
I don't see any of the details on this yet. But they seem to be joining that crowd, which, what is that list again? You know them, right? Antigua.
Yeah, you got Barbuda, St. Kitts, and
Nevis.
Grenada. Dominica.
Grenada and Dominica.
Yeah. And also the ones that, it's like, you can get Malta for 2.5 million.
Oh, yeah.
All these, but, it's very expensive options. Some people can afford this. And, if you can, I would suggest talking to our friends over there in Henley & Partners. We've interviewed them before. We have some contacts over there in the Borderless Society. But, if not, then you have to do kind of either look in your heritage or do kind of a go there and wait thing. Wait up to 2 to 5 years, depending on the country.
Right. Yeah, that's what I'm considering doing that very thing in Panama after having that guest on and finding out more about it.
Yeah.
So anyway, what else is happening, James?
Oh, not a lot. Just enjoying the weather here. Going to go out a little bit later and we'll see what happens.
Yep. We've got Laka Laka coming up. Didn't you say that that's one of the biggest festivals in the world or something?
Yeah, so here, if people like to follow big festivals, you can go on Fest 300, I believe it is, and it's the 300 biggest festivals. It's a website. And Laka Laka here in town in San Miguel de Allende is one of listed on there as one of the biggest festivals in the world. And it's basically a bunch of people that are, what they call themselves burners. They're from the Burning Man Festival. They help put that on. They run the TEDx Festival there. And then they come down here and do it. And it's really a big deal. I mean, the blowout party at the end has like 1,000 people, and it's nuts. They have fire twirlers and DJs from all over the world and all kinds of stuff. So.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I didn't get as into it last year as I will this year, but it's like Laka Laka means basically skeleton or skull, and it's built around Day of the Dead. So there's something to it. And not only are, there are going to be a lot of, Americans, living it up here, but lots of people from all over Mexico will come and take part in this party.
Yep.
And my partner out in Oaxaca there with the mezcal is coming, and we're setting up our second tasting, our gustacion as we call them, and we're looking to do at least 4 of them during that time. So it should be a fun time looking to see what the sort of market I'm going to have here in selling mezcal in San Miguel.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right. So go to Borderless Podcast. By the way, we haven't mentioned this in some time. Find us on iTunes if you would. Go ahead and leave us a rating and a review, and then go over to borderlesspodcast.com and click on Get Involved.
Right. Well, yeah, free instant access, and that'll get you updates whenever we have a new podcast, and also new blog posts, articles. Also, things going on with the Borderless Society and just things in general. If you are serious about doing this, we encourage you to go ahead and, like Harald was saying, just go ahead and do it. And the best way to do that is to meet with other people that are actually doing it, like ourselves and so many people that we talk to from all over the world. And so you can get in there with us, get in the Borderless Society, and just start doing it today.
Need some specific advice? Join the Borderless Society. It's still in beta mode, so it's quite inexpensive to get involved at this rate. And, you can get involved you get personal suggestions from people all over the world who can help you with whatever it is that you want to do. Yep. Another Borderless podcast coming up soon.
Thanks for joining us for the Borderless Podcast, traveling, investing, and living beyond borders.